So here are some typical questions people might raise about being autistic and dealing with sexual relationships or intimate relationships. So people might wonder, how do I handle pressure from others if I prefer not to be in relationships? Some number of autistic people and others identify as asexual or aromantic. So some people don't want to be bothered having sex or having sex partners. And I just figure everybody's got autonomy and the right to free choice. And I support you all the way if that's what works for you. I'm not going to what's the word I want to say? Like second guess somebody who identifies as asexual. If that's where they're at, they have every right to say that about themselves. But they do get social pressure, or people think, well, that's weird, or you probably just haven't met the right person yet, or, people will raise questions about anything that's unconventional. And this fits with your earlier question. People will ask themselves or a counselor, how do I know if someone's taking advantage of me? Now, we all might wonder that over the course of our lives as we move in and out of relationships, but neurodivergent people have very valid and wise reasons for raising that question because they are prone to being taken advantage of because people can spot us and we are honest and loyal, and we often assume honesty of others unless proven otherwise. And that's not always the wise course to take. So people have questions like that. Is a relationship worth the hassle it presents? There's an existential slant on things, right? I mean, we've all had days when we wonder that anyway, but really, I think for somebody who's autistic and more self-contained and can be satisfied with a more solitary life, I think that's a question worth pondering. And, many people will go in and out of periods of being single or just deciding, I don't have the spoons for this. I don't have the energy to invest in dating, socializing, meeting new people. There's other things I'd rather do. So I think we have to hold on to the possibility of legitimizing the choices people are making as therapists, but also helping them challenge themselves and raise questions and keep wondering, is this really doing it for me? Is this actually what I want? Or am I in my default mode here? People wonder, should parents or concerned family members have the right to make decisions for autistic people about relationships, about their intimate lives? Should the age of consent be different for disabled people? Well, I don't believe that it should, but I think that's a live debate. And, parents only know their children as children, and it's very hard for them to wrap their minds around their kids becoming fully sexual adult people. So they're not objective about this. And part of the spirit of the law is objectivity that applies to everyone. Some other questions that come up are, how do I know if I'm attracted? Again, here's a universal question, but it's got a particular poignant meaning for autistic people who may not have the same ability to read the signals they get from others or the catalog of experiences that helps them know, how am I feeling on the inside? If this is new for me to be this relational or learning about this many different people, how do I know when I'm picking up on the right signals about myself and who I'm drawn to and who feels safe and comfortable for me? Autistic people also raise questions like, what do we do when my partner and I process information differently? Or we're operating at a different pace. And that might be something that outside the bedroom is a cause of arguments or misunderstandings. And in the bedroom, it can really complicate things. So like all sexual people, part of our mission as therapists is to help people develop more sophisticated communication skills about knowing what they need and what they're asking of the other person so that it can smooth things out. But it's likely to still there's going to be some bumps in the road for autistic people that neurotypical folks don't usually deal with to the same extent. We'll talk about this a little more, but we just know autistic people are more likely to have tactile and sensory sensitivities that they have to manage. And being in a sexual interaction with another person can mean there's more to overcome there. You know, there's more stuff we have to work around or get comfortable with or articulate so that it's not presenting a hurdle between us and our partner, so we can have enjoyable, pleasant sex. Some people have kinks and prefer activities like BDSM, which means bondage, domination, sadism, masochism. Sometimes there are sensory needs autistic people have that make that a more appealing kind of sexual interaction for them. I bet a lot of you have heard of Temple Grandin, right? She's like the most famous autistic person in the world. And if you know her claim to fame, you know some of it is about designing some kind of containment device for cattle that are going to the slaughterhouse so that they calm down. There's a way that they feel a lot of pressure on their bodies from this device that she invented, and it helps them settle their nervous systems. And there's a lot of autistic people who are into kink play and BDSM activity. And again, we don't have research, but I do wonder how much there's something about skin sensitivity that gets taken care of by that kind of play. That neurotypical people are less likely to feel irritated by light touch, soft touch, than autistic people are. And there's a sensation of deep pressure that a lot of autistic people find very comforting. You'll hear people talk about how, oh yeah, I can't sleep unless the blankets are wrapped really tight around me, or I used to get myself out the door to go to school and I would fasten this belt really tight around my waist so that I knew I'd be okay, or you know, I had some special piece of clothing that gave me a kind of sensation of skin contact that I really needed to reassure myself in social situations. So you'll hear repeated reports of people talking about things like this, and I wonder how much it does have something to do with something about the nervous system feeling different sensations on the skin from neurotypical folks. So autistic people have an extra burden of being very explicit with their partners about what they're enjoying or not enjoying during a sexual interaction. So let me tell you some of the resources that I know of that seem credible and useful about disabled people in general and sexuality. There's a super wonderful website from a woman in England called sexualrespect.com. So it's sexualrespect.com, and I think her name is Tuppy Owens, and she has done this fantastic thing for years now, decades now, of creating a club for disabled people to find sex partners. It's called The Outsiders. And so they have regular meetings in London, but other places in England too, where disabled people congregate and they find each other, and they're encouraged to seek out love connections and sex connections with each other. So she's created this website that's a resource both for clients and professionals who want to learn about being good helpers. And so I really encourage you to check that one out if you're interested in this material. Other websites I found are mostly from Canada and also the UK. There's one called srhweek.ca. Sorry, I can't remember what it stands for, but I encourage you to check it out. srhweek.ca. And then there's the Sex Education Resource Center of Manitoba. That URL is serc.mb.ca. There's another one for sexual health and disabilities. That's shada.org.uk. Or just another overall wonderful website that I like to make sure people know about, is useful for adults as well, but it's called Scarleteen. And they have a very richly developed database in there about all aspects of sexuality. It's plain language, easy reading. A lot of it's kind of pretty lighthearted stuff because it's to appeal to adolescents. But I sometimes look stuff up there because they have so much information and so nicely presented. So that's another resource for it. Scarleteen, Teen, yeah. So